Hello, my name is Rachel, and for most of my life, I thought I was just fine. I thought I was strong. After all, I had everything I needed, a job that paid the bills, a family that was supposed to care about me, and a nice little house. But one phone call, just one, changed everything. That night, I had to sit there, at my sister's wedding, trying to smile while the world around me twisted in ways I couldn't even recognise. It was her big day, the day Emily was supposed to be happy. But as I watched her walk down the aisle, I couldn't help but feel like the ground was giving way under me. I should have been happy for her. She was my sister. We were supposed to be celebrating together. Right, but there I was, sitting at the back of the room, invisible. The whole thing felt like a cruel joke. I had always known that Emily was the golden child, the one my parents doted on. She could do no wrong. No matter what she did, the family always rallied around her. And me, well, I was the dependable one. I'd always been the one to stay out of the way, the one to take care of things without needing the spotlight. I was okay with that. At least, I thought I was. I had made peace with it. But when I walked into that venue, to be part of the wedding photos like I'd been promised, something shifted. The photographer, a stranger to me, looked me up and down, then told me, "I'm sorry, but you're not in this shot." His words hit me like a slap. I froze. "Excuse me," I asked, thinking maybe I had misunderstood. He didn't even look at me when he spoke again. "You're not in the picture. We need you to step aside. Emily said you were not needed in this part of the shoot." It was like a knife had been stabbed in my heart. The words burned, but it wasn't the photographer's fault. I turned, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run away, but instead, I stood there, frozen, staring at Emily in her pristine wedding dress. She didn't even look at me. She didn't need to. The truth hit me hard. I was expendable. I was nothing but an afterthought. I'd been pushed aside in my own sister's wedding, the one event where family was supposed to come together. But no, I wasn't allowed to be a part of it. When I looked around, my mother was right there, smiling proudly, glowing in her seat, oblivious to what was happening to me. She was too busy soaking in the attention, basking in the light of Emily's perfect day. I wanted to go up to her, shake her, scream in her face, but I stayed silent. I wanted to tell her how much it hurt, how it felt like she'd taken everything from me, my place in the family, my sense of worth, and now, even my dignity. But instead, I walked out of the room. I needed air. I needed to breathe. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. I just couldn't stand it. As I stepped outside, the cool evening air hit me, and for a moment, I felt like I could finally breathe again, but it didn't last long. Before I could even process my feelings, Alex, Emily's old friend and my old friend too, approached me. He'd always been the odd one out in Emily's circle, the one who saw things differently, the one who actually cared. "You okay?" Alex asked, his eyes full of concern. "I saw you walk out. Everything all right?" I looked at him, trying not to break down in front of him. Yeah, I said, my voice weak. I didn't want to show him how much it hurt. I didn't want anyone to see me like this. Alex didn't push. He just nodded. But he wasn't fooled. He'd known me long enough to know when something was wrong. "You don't have to do this," he said gently. "You don't have to stay here. You don't owe anyone anything." His words struck me deep. I didn't owe anyone anything. Not Emily, not my parents, and certainly not the people who had made me feel invisible for all these years. But there I was, standing outside in the cold, watching my sister's perfect day unfold, and all I could feel was the ache in my chest. "I should go back in," I whispered, more to myself than to him. Alex shook his head. "Rachel, you're more than this. Don't let them use you like that. You don't have to put up with it. You're worth more. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that I mattered. But the truth was, I didn't know who I was anymore. I'd spent so many years being everything my family wanted me to be. I'd forgotten what it felt like to just, be me. I stood there for what felt like forever. The sound of laughter and music leaking through the venue doors. But it wasn't my laughter. It wasn't my happiness. It wasn't my day. And I realized that maybe, just maybe, it never would be why I didn't go back in. I couldn't. The thought of stepping back into that room, of sitting at the table with my family, as if nothing had happened, felt like betrayal to myself. Instead, I walked away. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed space to think, to feel, to breathe without the constant weight of expectations pressing down on me. The city streets were busy, the hum of people moving in every direction, but for the first time in ages, I felt a sense of peace. I was alone with my thoughts, and that felt almost liberating. No one was telling me what to do. No one was pretending to care, and no one was taking me for granted. It was just me, the pavement beneath my feet, and the cold air that made everything feel sharp and clear. I didn't reach out to anyone, not to my parents, not to Emily. I wasn't sure what I would say if I did. I'd spent years being the one who kept the peace, who bent over backward to make everyone else happy, while I swallowed my own anger and hurts. But now, I felt the simmering anger rise to the surface, threatening to boil over. I couldn't be that person anymore, not for them, not for anyone. I ended up in the small park by my apartment, sitting on a bench, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed in my pocket, breaking the silence. I looked down at it, Sophia. Sophia was the one person who always had my back. She was the first one to notice when I wasn't okay, the first one to show up with a bottle of wine and a shoulder to cry on. She'd been there for every single heartbreak, every tear I had ever shed, and now she was calling me. I answered without hesitation. "Hey," I said, my voice quieter than usual. "You okay?" she asked. Her tone concerned but calm. I saw the pictures. I know what happened. "Are you all right?" I wasn't sure if I was all right. How could I be? My family had just kicked me out of a moment that was supposed to be mine. My own sister didn't want me there. The betrayal felt like an earthquake, shaking everything I thought I knew about myself. But Sophia, she always knew how to make me feel like I wasn't alone. I don't know. "Soph," I said, feeling the weight of the tears I had been holding back. "I don't know if I'm okay. I thought I was strong enough for all of this. But maybe I'm not. Maybe I never was." Sophia didn't hesitate. "No, Rachel, you are strong. You've been strong your whole life, but that doesn't mean you don't get to be hurt. That doesn't mean you have to keep putting everyone else's feelings ahead of your own." I stayed silent for a while, the words settling into my chest, like a quiet truth I had been too afraid to acknowledge. "You're not weak for feeling hurt," Sophia continued. "You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be frustrated. And you don't have to forgive them just because they're family. Family doesn't get to treat you like this." I looked out at the park, watching a couple walk by, hand in hand, lost in their own world. For a moment, I wished I could be them. I wished I could ignore the noise in my head, the pain in my heart, and just live in the moment. But I couldn't. Not now. Not when everything felt like it was falling apart. "I'm just tired, Soph," I whispered. "I'm tired of being the one who always picks up the pieces. I'm tired of being the one who makes everyone else feel comfortable while I'm falling apart inside." Sophia was quiet for a moment, and I knew she was thinking, carefully choosing her words. "You deserve better than that," she said, her voice firm. "And you're never going to get it by keeping quiet and taking the hits. I'm not saying you need to go out and burn bridges, but you need to stand up for yourself, Rachel. You need to stop letting them walk all over you." Her words hit me like a wave. I had spent so long holding on to the idea of family, of loyalty, that I had forgotten what it meant to take care of myself. I had sacrificed my happiness, my peace, for the sake of everyone else's comfort. I had been manipulated into thinking that was what love looked like, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe love wasn't supposed to hurt this much. I don't know if I can... I said, a knot forming in my stomach. What if I stand up for myself and they never talk to me again? What if I lose them all? Sophia sighed. Rachel, you're already losing yourself. And at the end of the day, you can't change people who don't want to change. If they're willing to treat you like this, do you really want them in your life? Do you really want to keep letting them make you feel like you don't matter? The silence between us stretched for a moment, and then I realised something. The answer was right there, in the pit of my stomach. No, I didn't want them in my life if they couldn't see my worth. I didn't want to keep giving pieces of myself to people who would never value them. I'm scared. Soph, I whispered, the words almost too hard to say. I don't know how to let go. I don't know how to stop trying to fix everything. Sophia's voice softened. It's not about fixing everything, Rach. It's about fixing you. You've been breaking yourself trying to hold it all together. It's time to put yourself first. I felt a tear slip down my cheek. But it wasn't the same kind of tear as before. This one felt different. It wasn't just the pain of the past. It was the beginning of something new, something powerful. I don't know if I'm ready. I said, my voice trembling with emotion, but I think I'm getting there. You will be, Sophia said, and I'm right here. You don't have to do this alone. The days after the wedding were a blur. I'd barely slept, and when I did, it was restless. I spent my time at work, burying myself in responsibilities to avoid the truth that was slowly sinking in. I had no idea what I was doing anymore. All I knew was that I couldn't go back to the way things were. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I didn't call Emily. I didn't text my parents. For the first time in my life, I chose silence. It felt strange, but liberating in a way. My heart was heavy with anger and hurt. But it was also lighter somehow, as if I was stepping away from a weight I hadn't realised I'd been carrying for years. Sophia checked in daily, each time asking how I was holding up. Still standing, she would ask. And each time, I replied, I think so. But I wasn't sure if I was standing, or just barely staying afloat. I was still haunted by the image of Emily, my sister, walking down the aisle with everyone watching her, while I was sitting in the back, invisible. But I couldn't let that image define me. I knew that if I let it, I'd be trapped forever in this bitter, toxic space I'd spent my life in. It was Saturday when I made the decision. I woke up with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in a long time. The phone sat on my desk, its screen glowing, as if it was calling me. I stared at it for a while. The temptation to call my parents overwhelming, but I knew what would happen. They would apologise. Sure, but only to brush it under the rug. They'd give me the family speech, and I'd end up forgiving them. As always, I wasn't going to let that happen again. I wasn't going to let them treat me like I was the one who had to swallow my pain for their sake. That's when I did it. I opened the email, clicked on the document I had been keeping a secret for months, and sent it off. It was a formal letter to the venue where Emily's wedding had been held, Silver Willow Gardens. I didn't own it all, just a small share, enough to have a stake in the decisions. The venue had always been a dream of mine, a side project I had quietly worked on while working my 9-to-5, a little slice of something I had done for myself. No one, not even Emily, knew about it, not until now. I wrote that I was pulling out my stake, that I no longer wished to be a part of the business. I wasn't just leaving, I was taking back my share. It felt right. It felt like a moment of strength that I'd been needing for years. I had been suffocating in the demands of my family, of my sister. And now I was breathing again. I didn't need them to approve. I didn't need their permission. This was mine. The moment I hit send, I felt a rush of clarity. The knot in my stomach loosened, and I felt the weight of the past few weeks lift off my shoulders. This was it. I was done being the side character in my own life. I was ready to step into my own story. As the days went by, the reality of my decision sank in. Emily's phone call came on Tuesday. The second it rang, I knew exactly who it was. I'd been expecting it, almost preparing myself for the confrontation, but it still felt like a punch in the gut when I saw her name flash on the screen. I didn't answer right away. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. Then I picked it up, my hands trembling slightly. Rachel. Her voice came through, shaky. I know you've been upset. God, I don't even know how to start. I didn't mean for things to turn out like this. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought you'd understand. It's just that Mum and Dad, they were so happy. And I guess I let it go too far. I'm sorry. I held the phone to my ear, listening to the words that were meant to mend. But they didn't. They didn't make it better. They didn't make her betrayal go away. They didn't change what she'd done. But I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was just done. I know you're sorry, I said quietly, my voice calm, almost detached. But I don't need your apology. Emily, not anymore. There was a pause on the other end, a long, uncomfortable silence. Rachel, she said, a little more forcefully now. I get it. You're upset, but this is ridiculous. You can't walk away from the family. You're part of this. You belong with us. You've always been there. No, I said, my voice firm now. I've always been there, but I was never part of it. I've been invisible. Emily, for years, and I let it happen. I let you treat me like that, but not anymore. I'm done. There was another long silence. I could hear her breathing, the frustration in her sharp inhales. I don't understand. How can you just give up on everything we've built on me? You're my sister. I need you. No, I said again, more quietly this time, but with conviction. You don't need me. You need someone who'll let you walk all over them. But that's not me anymore. The conversation ended with a strained, okay, I guess that's it then. I didn't feel relieved, but I didn't feel worse either. There was no grand resolution, no apology that would heal the years of emotional scars. But there was clarity, and that was enough. For the first time, I wasn't trying to fix something that wasn't broken. I was building something new for myself. It had been a few weeks since the phone call with Emily, and things had settled into a new routine. The silence between us was deafening, but it wasn't as painful as I thought it would be. I had expected to feel hollow, to miss the way things used to be, but instead, I felt free. For the first time, I wasn't carrying the weight of my family's expectations on my shoulders. I was starting to find my own voice again, to feel the confidence I hadn't known I'd lost. Work had become a refuge of sorts. It had always been my escape. But now, it was more than that. The projects I had once done because I had to were now things I genuinely cared about. I began to take on more responsibility, pushing myself in ways I hadn't dared to before. It felt good. It felt like I was finally stepping into my own, like I was becoming the person I was always meant to be. But even in the quiet freedom, the question still lingered. What about my parents? What about the years I had spent trying to please them? Was it all really worth it? The weight of that question hovered over me every day, a reminder of the life I had been living. And then a message from my mother came. It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a desperate text. No, it was just an email. I had been expecting something, anything, really, but I wasn't prepared for the coldness of her words. Rachel, we need to talk. Your father and I are worried about you. This whole situation is tearing the family apart. We understand that you're upset, but you can't keep running away from us. You can't just walk away from family." I stared at the email for a long time, my hands clenched around the phone, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The urge to respond was overwhelming, but something held me back. I didn't need to explain myself to her anymore. Not now, not after everything. I closed the email and threw my phone onto the couch, walking away from it like it was a weight I couldn't bear to carry. My mother, the woman who had spent so many years telling me I wasn't enough, was now trying to pull me back into the very system I had just broken free from. It didn't matter that she was worried. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried about losing control. For a moment, I felt the familiar pang of guilt, but it wasn't as sharp as it used to be. I didn't feel as though I had to apologize. I didn't owe them anything, and I knew that, for the first time, I was standing up for myself in a way I never had before. It was late that evening when I finally reached out to Sophia. We'd been talking less recently, with me focusing so much on work and avoiding the emotional fallout. But I knew I needed someone to talk to. I needed to say the words out loud. I needed to process everything that had happened. "Hey, Soph," I said when she picked up the phone. "Can we talk?" Her voice was light and comforting, the way it always was. "Of course." "Rachel, what's on your mind?" I didn't know where to start. The conversation with my mother still weighed heavily on me. I don't know what to do anymore. I thought I was doing the right thing by stepping away, by leaving everything behind. But now, it feels like I'm just running from them, from my family. Sophia didn't immediately respond, but I could hear her thinking. And that was what I needed, someone who didn't rush to fix it, but who just listened. "You're not running," she finally said, her tone calm but firm. "You're standing up for yourself. You're choosing your own peace over their manipulation. And that's brave, Rachel. That's strength. Don't let them make you feel like you owe them an explanation. They're the ones who owe you one." Her words sank deep into me. I wasn't running. I was reclaiming what had always been mine. The more I thought about it, the more I realized she was right. I wasn't running away from my family. I was running toward something better, toward a life where I wasn't forced to shrink just to fit into their expectations, toward freedom, toward my own happiness. I don't know if I'm ready to just cut them out completely, though. I admitted, I've been holding on to this idea of family for so long, of what it should be. I thought if I just kept giving, kept making them proud, it would all be worth it. But it wasn't. I'm not sure how to move forward now. Sophia was quiet for a moment, but when she spoke, her voice was steady. "You don't have to cut them out completely, Rachel, but you need boundaries. You need to protect yourself from the emotional toll they've been putting on you for all these years. You don't owe them your peace." Her words were like a light bulb going off in my head. Boundaries. I hadn't thought of it like that before. I didn't have to shut them out entirely, but I did need to set limits. I had been bending to their will for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to be in control of my own life. "I think I get it," I said softly, feeling the tension in my chest ease, just a little. I need to take care of myself first. I've spent so long trying to please them, but I can't keep doing that anymore. I need to start living for me." Sophia's voice warmed with approval. "Exactly. And I'm here for you, Rachel. Every step of the way, the weight that had been sitting on my shoulders for so long started to lift. I had spent so many years trying to find a way to make them happy, to fit into a mold they'd created for me. But now I was starting to see the truth. I couldn't be happy living their life. I had to live my own. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something profound. I was no longer the person I had been before. I wasn't the invisible one anymore. I wasn't the one who silently took what was handed to me and pretended everything was fine. I was strong, I was free, and no matter what my family said, no matter how hard they tried to pull me back into their drama, I was done letting them define me. I had my own life to live, and for the first time in years, I was ready to live it for myself. It had been months since that conversation with Sophia. I hadn't heard from Emily. And to be honest, I wasn't sure if I ever would. The silence wasn't as uncomfortable as I expected. Instead, it was a kind of peace I hadn't known in years. And as each day passed, I realized that peace was exactly what I needed to heal. My life, though still uncertain, was slowly becoming mine. I had stopped tiptoeing around my family's expectations. I had stopped apologizing for my own existence. And, most importantly, I had stopped feeling guilty for choosing myself. But there were still moments when the weight of the past would sneak up on me, when I'd question my decisions, wondering if walking away was the right choice. Would things have been different if I had tried harder to make peace with my family? Was I too quick to sever the bond? The doubts came and went, but they didn't hold me back like they once did. I had started seeing a therapist, someone who helped me unravel the knots in my heart and mind. She taught me that healing wasn't linear, and that it was okay to feel the pain, the confusion, the anger, and then let it go. Slowly, I learned how to trust myself again, how to be kind to the parts of me that had been ignored for so long. One evening, I decided to visit Silver Willow Gardens. It wasn't for Emily, it wasn't for my family, it was for me, for the first time. I didn't feel the need to hide. I didn't need to explain anything. I just needed to be in a space that had once felt like a dream. I was too afraid to claim. Now, it felt like a part of my story, a place where I had stood my ground and taken what was rightfully mine. As I drove up the familiar winding road that led to the venue, the sky painted in hues of gold and pink, something inside me shifted. I had always viewed this place as a symbol of my own quiet rebellion, the place where I had secretly built a life for myself, despite the constant pull of family expectations. But as I stood outside the grand hall, watching the evening sun filter through the trees, I realized that it wasn't just about rebellion. It was about growth. It was about carving out a space where I could be Rachel, not someone's daughter or someone's sister, but simply Rachel, inside. A small group was preparing for an event, nothing grand, just a simple gathering. I stood for a moment at the entrance, watching people move around, setting up with ease. It was beautiful. The place still felt like home. Even though it had been months since I'd last been there, the manager of the venue, Tina, approached me with a smile, recognizing me immediately. "Rachel, it's been a while," she said. "We've missed you around here." I smiled back, a genuine, unforced smile. "I've been figuring things out," I replied. I hadn't realized until that moment how much I had missed this place, the work, the people, and the quiet pride of knowing I had built something with my own hands. I wasn't just the woman behind the scenes anymore. I was part of something important. "You're looking good, Tud," Tina added, her tone warm. "How's everything with you, family?" I hesitated for a moment. The question, though innocent enough, always felt like a trap. The family I had walked away from was still the elephant in the room. But now, when I spoke of them, I didn't feel the bitterness I once did. I felt calm. "I'm doing better," I said finally. "I'm healing, taking care of myself." "You know," she smiled knowingly, "I get it. Sometimes you just need to put yourself first." I nodded, grateful for her understanding. It wasn't that I didn't still love my family. It was just that I couldn't be who they wanted me to be anymore. I had to be who I was meant to be, even if that meant stepping away for good. "I think it's time I started focusing on the things that really matter," I said, and for the first time, I realized that I wasn't just talking about the venue, I was talking about my life. That evening, I walked around Silver Willow Gardens, my footsteps echoing in the empty hall. The place felt alive with possibilities. I'd always felt like a small part of a much bigger picture. But now I realized I was the picture. I was the one who had built this place, this sanctuary, this dream. It wasn't just a venue, It was proof of my strength, my determination, and my willingness to stand up for myself, even when it meant facing my deepest fears. The sun set, casting long shadows across the property, and I stood at the window overlooking the grounds, feeling a sense of closure. I wasn't looking back anymore. I had learned what I needed to learn, and I had walked away with the power to shape my future. I knew it wasn't over, there were still hurdles ahead. There would always be moments when the pain crept in, when the guilt or doubt tried to find its way back into my life. But now, I had the tools to deal with it. Now, I knew what it meant to take care of myself, to protect my peace, and to never let anyone, family, or not make me feel small again. It was time to start living my life the way I had always wanted to, and I was ready. Rachel's journey isn't just about leaving toxic people behind. It's about reclaiming the space to become who she was always meant to be. Sometimes, the hardest part of healing is realizing that you don't need to carry the weight of family expectations on your shoulders to be worthy of love and happiness. Rachel's story is a reminder that personal growth and healing often come from standing up for yourself, even when it means walking away from everything you thought you knew. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to prioritize your own well-being over family? Share your story with us in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe for more empowering stories of strength, growth, and transformation.